Hi, this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by and welcome to part 6 of the end of season updates. These seem to be endless. There's a lot of plants, but I'm going to... the thing is, the clips are all filmed now, so to try and think about stop waffling about the plants is, well, it's past its day. The clips are done, I've just got to put them together. So we'll get going with part 6. Looks like we might get some sunshine in here today. It lights the plants up. So, part 6. Quick update, me being not observant. The Phalaenopsis type Thai angel, the one with the name, has a spike starting. Now, I've been going on about the wonderful blooms on this plant for a very long time, because it hasn't had any for a very long time. But sometime down the line, it looks like we're going to get some now on that latest huge growth. Whoa! At last. Now, although this update's about plants and how well they've grown through the year, you can't bypass these blooms. They're just smashing. I've forgotten what it is. It's Melissa Briony, but what else is it? Milton Indian, probably. I have been out for a coffee. It could have changed while I was out. Plant was not doing so well, but the latest growth that was then, which is this one out here, has actually spiked and bloomed. But it's done a strange thing and pushed the next growth out here, which is coming on. I'm not too happy about the colour of those sheaths. I hope that's not going to rot. I think I need to keep the base of that shoot dry. So let's just tease away the moss so that I can water around it and not all over it. Just looks a bit iffy, those sheaths. It's quite firm, so I don't think it hasn't rotted, but it's showing signs that it's not happy. So that new growth might not make it. We shall see, but not the happiest of plants, but certainly wonderful blooms. I'll have to keep my eye on this and see how it progresses. This is another biggie. This is Odontoglossum, probably still Odontoglossum in this case. Oh, because it is a species, Naeviem. Beautiful blooms on this. What on earth possessed me to pot that in a black pot? I really don't know, because I haven't got a flipping clue what's going on in the pot. What I do know is there are lots of new growths, but none of them look really big and strong like the old ones. They all look a bit weak. So I'm going to dig my finger right down in that pot and see how wet it is. There'll be one of two things. It'll either be absolutely sopping wet, in which case new growths might not have successful roots underneath them and the old roots will have gone. It didn't have good roots. Or it's too dry and the new growths just aren't getting enough hydration. But I need to tell, and I don't want to get it out of its pot again, so I'm just going to have to wing this one. But the new growths don't look as strong as they should. I haven't had the plant long enough to know whether they do look like that and then, you know, they just grow slowly and gradually mature over time. It is a species after all, so we'll have to wait and see with this one. Lots of new growths. If they are successful, that's going to be a good blooming next time. Well, this is Maxillaria sophronitis, has the tiny little red flowers with the deep yellow centre. This objected strongly to being taken off its mount and put in a pot, and many of the leaves on the older bulbs just died. But and I was getting quite worried. But literally in the last month or so, it's shooting out new growths all over the place. They're everywhere. Yeah, up here. Yeah, you can see them everywhere you look. There's new growths, so it's now getting going again. So it's got over its objections, it's finished sulking, and it's now started to grow. So it's the fact that it's a rambler, and a hell of a lot of it was actually off the edge of the mount, and you know, it's one that needs hydration at its roots, but it just objected to that sudden change. But it's got over it. You know, we all get over our problems, don't we? So anyway, I mean, I've been reluctant to water this because I thought perhaps it was just waterlogged, but it is very dry today, so I will water it. So it's growing, it's coming on, and I suspect we'll have those tiny little red flowers on some of these new growths. I've still never got a mass blooming on this. Maybe now is the time. There are so many new growths, or all at a similar stage. We could get a lot of blooms at the same time. But it's a wait and see. This should have come with a health warning. Grows big. My fault, didn't look it up properly. I got sold by the lovely yellow, waxy, long-lasting, fragrant blooms and didn't really take much notice of what the plant does. It's a biggie. I've got it now. I will accommodate it. As a plant, it's growing well. It has many new growths, which I'm trying to train up the other side of the plant to balance it a bit better, because it's a bit lopsided at the moment. Probably it just headed towards the light source and arched over in that one direction in the past. I'm trying to guide it to do the same in the opposite direction. Good plant, massive roots, healthy, strong. And there's no reason why that shouldn't bloom at the appropriate time, whatever that is. But it is a monster, massive plant. Whoops, Dendrobium Hancockii. Otherwise you don't know what it is, do you? Now, this is Miltonia flavescens, I think. Yes, flavescens. I've not had this long. It had some roots when I repotted it, and since then it's done roots all over the place. Very pleased with the pot full of roots and new growths coming out all over the place. So I see no reason why, as those new growths mature, we don't get some blooms, especially that nice big fat new growth there. That'll be the first one to mature. So it's a strong enough plant to be able to bloom with a very good support system. So come on, get on with it. You can't expect this to bloom until those growths mature, but shouldn't be too long now, I wouldn't have thought. Maybe early spring perhaps, we'll see. Now I was going to hold off filming this one until it actually bloomed, but it'll get filmed when the blooms open anyway, and if nothing else it will be in the everything in bloom on the 8th, because the blooms will last that long. Dendrobium Nobile, Spring Dreamer pollen. And it's just got a mass of buds. They're just, it's just having a go. Totally out of season. Hope it leaves enough space to bloom again in the spring. Although this cane here has got no buds on, so at least that one can completely bloom. And this one will probably stop soon. So the buds it's produced so far will go ahead, and then the gaps where it hasn't bloomed will continue. And this older cane here, got a mass of buds on. This one's got some over here. It's just having an out of season fling. They just do that sometimes. As I said, it's going to reduce the amount of blooms in the spring, but I'll have them now. They're going to look good. They last a while, so coming soon. Now don't laugh, you might upset it. This is all that's left of Miltoniopsis World Cup, literally. It's tried to produce 2 new growths and failed. They just rotted off. I don't like the look of the base of that pseudo bulb, and having tried on both sides of that pseudo bulb, I'm not sure it's even capable of pushing up another new growth. So I think that has probably had it, but again, it's not in the way, so I'm just going to leave it and see what it does. I mean, it's got some roots. It's not like it's rootless, but I think it might have run out of places to produce a new growth. Unless it can find somewhere around the base of that one, then there's not a lot of hope for it. It's got a single leaf that's bent. Nonetheless, it can still photosynthesize to a degree, not much. And it has got roots pushing in stuff from the bottom. But, yeah, don't hold out a lot of hope. Shame actually, that was a gorgeous bloom. But when I got the plant I knew it wasn't a good plant. I bought it for the blooms and a memory of a day out. You know, chances are it's a mass-produced Miltoniopsis, it'll come round again. It was certainly one worth having, but the best plant, the one I would have chosen, somebody else chose before I got to it. So I had to choose out of what was left, and what was left were not the best plants. So not a lot of hope for that, I don't think. Now this Dendrobium, this is a primary cross, Farmeri crossed with Griffith Annan, and it's got a problem, or had a problem. It's difficult yet to tell. The problem manifests itself like this. which I need to catch the light. This is pitting. It's not bugs. But this is not that old a growth. It was earlier this year. And all the leaves are like it, and it's just pitting. And on the underside too. It's not bugs. There aren't any bugs on the plant. It's weird. It's still unidentified. It's worse in places than others, but I mean, this is a new growth. There's no marks on those leaves. It's got another new growth coming here, and even though the leaves aren't open properly, they look clean. There's an odd leaf on the older part of the plant that's nowhere near as bad, but there's something not right with it. I mean, these are the leaves that look worst. These are very old leaves, in fact. But I'm going to have to keep my eye on it because it's an unknown problem. I don't know what it is. It's highly unlikely to be deficiencies or anything like that. I've not known deficiencies actually leave pitting on the leaves. I mean, it could be some sort of... I doubt if it's viral because it would take over the plant quite quickly. It could be some sort of fungal attack or bacterial attack. It's difficult to say. I mean, I'm reluctant to treat anything until I know what I'm treating. So I'm just going to have to keep my eye on it for now. But as I said, I mean, you know, that growth looks okay. Those leaves are clean. And it is growing new growths, and it is growing roots. Oops, I've just watered that. So, yeah, it's difficult to say at the moment what's actually up with it. So I'm just going to keep my eye on it for now. That's all I can do. Now, this is an epidendrum, commonly known as a reed stem orchid, just basically because of its shape and the way that it grows. This is growing spectacularly. When I got it, it was in bloom on this cane and another cane somewhere, and I left the spike because sometimes they extend, although I now doubt if that one will. But what we've got now is much taller canes growing on, and a good number of them. So hopefully some of these will actually bloom when they reach maturity. But they haven't finished growing yet, they're still pushing out. Well, that one might have, but that one's still growing. That might not push another leaf. That one's got another leaf coming, unless it's a spike. Yeah, so it's in active growth. It's growing well. I'm very pleased with its progress. It's a type of radicans hybrid, I suspect. There was lovely bright orange flowers on it, and it looked very much along those lines, but no name on it as such. Just an epidendrum hybrid. I'm happy with that. Lovely blooms if and when I get some more. And this giant Sailaja is a bit of a conundrum. It does have some funny things going on. It also aborted a spike not that long ago. Oh, we do have some good roots at long last. This is Sailaja Neem Moriana Magnifica Brockhurst. It's easy for you to say. I need to put that tag where new roots aren't. Progression on this plant. It was bought with quite shriveled pseudobulbs, and some of the leaves look like this. Having seen other plants, including at the nursery where it came from, there are quite a few leaves around on this type of plant that look like that. Why? I don't know, but it's not uncommon. So anyway, we grew this new growth, this new bulb, and that's the one I believe had a spike that aborted. Yeah, but anyway, it matured and grew quite large. It then produced this new growth, which hasn't matured yet, but very, very bad leaves on that one. And then it produced this new growth, and for the first time I've got two clean leaves without all those bubbles and distortions. But the bulb doesn't look a very good shape. Come on, you, sort yourself out. But again, when it was potted up, it had poor roots, but because of the size of the bulbs and I was told its rate of growth, it went in a pot that's actually far too big. So this one's never been sat in a tray. Most of the new roots are around the top, and as you can see, there are more roots to come. And obviously this needs a good root system to support a plant that large, and at the moment it hasn't got one. So it needs to grow a new root system, and it's working on it. This one has pushed out roots right round to the edge of the pot, from here, literally right over here and down in. This one's produced roots down into the pot and is still producing some. And this new growth, which might, I can't remember which order they came out in, but that's producing some new roots. If this doesn't establish a good root system, then the next new growth might not be that good either. It's got to get a good root system. Needs to drink a lot, and it can't drink a lot without a lot of roots. Come on, get your act together. But I mean, it's far from keeling over. It's not going to die or anything. It's just going to be slow progress to get a healthy enough root system to be able to support and mature new growths and put up what are massive blooms if it ever gets round to it. I thought we were going to see some because we had a spike, but it just aborted. Not enough root. Simple as that. It needs better root system, but it is working on it. That's the main thing. It hasn't given up and turned its toes up. Now these two are both the same. That's the Prosthetia radiata, highly fragrant blooms. This got tracked down at Burnham's because in their orchid paradise, where all their specimen plants go when they're in bloom for the public to look round, the whole place just kept getting a waft of fragrance. It took me quite a while to track down which plant was actually doing it, and it turned out it was this one. So I thought, got to have that, and had a chat with Sarah, and she split up one of the specimen plants, and I got a decent piece. Unfortunately, it headed off in two entirely separate directions, and it has a bit of a creeping nature with quite long rhizomes, and both of the new pieces were outside of the pot. So I took the bull by the horns, cut the plant in half, so that each new growth could get its roots into some media. Now, since I've had this plant, every single new growth has bloomed without fail. So I see no reason why the two latest new growths won't bloom. They've both got a sheath. Yep, they've both got a sheath. So hopefully we'll have some blooms on that soon. This one here has pushed out a new growth slightly sideways, but it's in the pot and so are the roots. Bonus. This one has also pushed out here with roots in the pot. Yeah, good stuff. But that's the bit I'm watching. If I can get this to shoot out farther back, there's an eye there, then I've got two leads, both inside the pot. Bonus. I don't see any other eyes on this one yet. The next new lead's probably going to be around here. I can't remember whether the new growths start before the blooms or after, but around the same time, I would say. I've forgotten. They're two good plants, but it is a strappy plant. It takes up quite a bit of space, and it is a rambler, so I've got to put up with it if I want it. Ramble away. This is the rest of the Bulbophyllums. This one is Deary Eye. This is not a happy bunny. This new growth here has grown okay and grown roots. The extension came out this way, yeah? I think that was already there. That new growth aborted. That new growth lost its leaves and didn't look good at all. It shot out the side with another new growth, and I don't think that one's very happy. I don't know what's up with that one. And yet this end of the plant don't look too bad. I'll just have to wait and see. These are the back bulbs I took off Elizabeth Ann Bucklebury when I forced it in a pot, and I thought, well, stick them in a pot and see if they grow. Well, they grow. So each one of those back bulbs has produced a new growth. They're not enormous, but then they had no roots. And, two of them are in the pot. One's decided to climb up the climb up the tag. Oh, that's not going to do you a lot of good, mate. But yeah, we've got new growths that are now pushing out roots. So some plants to move on to somebody else at some point. I don't need multiple versions of that. And this is the miniature one. Skim something or other. No, Sycamensi. A good miniature one, nice and compact, none of this stupid long rhizomes trying to escape everywhere, and loads of new growths and new roots on this one. I'm pleased with this one's progress. That has come on nicely this year. It's taken nicely to that mount, through the moss and into a mixture of bark and moss. It can stay there forever, quite honestly. Well, that should do well. Growing on, Very good. Pleased with that. Now get on and bloom. Just coming back to this Dendrobium, it's just dawned on me, because I filmed it quite a while ago, so it wasn't fresh in my mind. This pitting has occurred on a couple of other plants. It's on the oldest part of my Phalaenopsis type Dendrobiums. Not all of them, but some of them, so I have seen it before. And the only thing I can think of, because it just dawned on me now, that this plant and those plants used to share a shelf. So how about a theory that once upon a time I had a little outbreak of spider mites? Because that is... that's a bad one. That is often what the damage ends up looking like, especially if it gets the younger leaves, because it pits them, where it bites in, but then the leaf carries on growing, so the pits expand, they grow with the leaf. So it is possible that we had a little outbreak of spider mites, and the routine spraying probably just knocked them over, and they're gone. But I've searched this with the magnifying glass. There are no signs of life on it. There's certainly no bugs on here, anywhere. So perhaps just the routine spraying knocked them on the head. But I will still have to keep my eye on this one, because, as I said, I'm sure that's not that old a growth. Maybe it's just a memory thing. I know it's growing new growths. Maybe that's not one of them. Maybe that is just an older one. We shall have to wait and see. But just a thought. No proof, obviously. Right, these three. That's Negara apple blossom at the back. Got sunburnt, my fault. One new growth on that at the moment, and a shed load of new roots as a consequence of that lead. So I'm well pleased with that. This is Young Min Orange, latest two growths. Poor root system when it was repotted. Latest two growths have remedied that very well. Mass of new roots on this new growth and this one. Both have got sheaths. They should bloom. We'll wait and see. And this one, I've been lucky with this one because this had a broken growth, which meant I got it cheap. But it did have a secondary growth just starting. Well, that's grown on and that's got two nice buds on it at the moment. So hopefully they'll open in the not too distant future. The new growth it's maintained has pushed out quite a lot of new roots. I was lucky because where that new growth broke off, it had already started the roots, so it's just carried on growing those, and some of the roots towards the back of the plant are branching out. That could precede another eye bursting somewhere farther back on the plant, but again we'll have to wait and see. But coming on nicely. That one's Angel Heart, I'm reliably told. Yeah, I mean that's two large Cattleyas there. They are big plants. Now that Cattleya up the back, when I filmed the Cattleyas I forgot that one. I'm not getting it down now because I have to move them all to get at that one. That's the large blue one, currently in spike. I thought that spike was going to be quite poor with just maybe one or two buds, but now it's extending. There's at least 3 buds on there, maybe more. Second blooming this year. Good top growth. Firmly attached to that basket, much to my annoyance, because the whole basket has to go in the bucket. But there's no way I'd get that off without damaging so many roots. The basket once had media in it, but a while ago I just teased it all out so that it could be bare rooted. Very extensive root system hanging down there. Lovely plant, and this year it bloomed twice. Last year it bloomed for the first time, single spike. This year it's bloomed twice. So that's the big blue Vanda. So another couple of holy pots. This one is Prosthetia Green Hornet. Not doing very well at the moment. I'm hoping for new growths that do better. Another new acquisition here. Lovely strong new growth coming out of the base and good root signs, and it's got a name a yard long. Shin Fong, Little Sun, Young Min, Golden Boy. There you go. A mouthful. But yeah, it's got new roots coming out. It's already got an established root system, so that one should pull on well. It's got 2 sheaths on it, but whether anything will come of those, we'll just have to wait and see. I mean, obviously it's been disturbed, so we'll see how that goes. Okay, this group's a bit of a mix. Up the back there is Sailaja anceps, making good progress. Latest two growths have both got spikes, yeah, and they're starting to show signs of buds forming at the top. They're still going to grow taller than that before the buds actually show proper, but that's coming on nicely. These two on the right hand side are both the same plant. They're just a no ID large blousy magenta Cattleya. They both produce a new growth, both of which have sheaths, but whether they'll bloom or not after their disturbance remains to be seen. But given their disturbance, they've both produced a new root system to go with the new growths. This one being the better, but this one having the better new growth, despite not having such a good root system. This is another no ID Cattleya. This is just a very, it's just a large orange bloom. It's very, very nice. I haven't seen the blooms on this for a while, but this has produced a good new root system, good strong new growth with a sheath. So wait and see. I always say that. This one at the back I've been practicing. This is Sailaja purpurata, variety purpurea. Got it. Saves taking the tag out. I've been practicing. There's lots of purrs in there. Two nice new growths came from Ecuagenera. Bit iffy, but this one's done well. The new growths have pushed on a good root system down the front end of the plant. The rest of the plant has no roots virtually, or very poor roots, or dying roots, but the front of the plant's now got a good root system to go with the two new growths. Whether it's going to bloom or not, I haven't got a clue. All I'm pleased with is that the two new growths have grown, yeah, the plant's lived, and it's generated a root system, so it now has a future. So it was I wouldn't say it was in a lousy state when I got it, but you know, the new roots were embryo stage, and so were the two new growths, so that's come on well this year. So that's that little group. Well, these are my two Cyclopses, neither of which are doing brilliantly, but they're doing better than they were. This is the species Papilio. It's the alba form. It does have a new growth, and it is producing a new root system since it was taken out of its old media and put in some moss. I've got some good active root growth in the pot now, so I'm pleased that the plant will now recover, and hopefully that new growth will have a nice looking leaf on it. But the sad bit is, I've got a feeling that's not long finished blooming, and there's no sign of green in that spike. I think that spike may have aborted. They're perpetual, so one bloom after the other, and under normal circumstances, as the old bloom fades, the next bud is already there, showing green through the sheath. There's no sign of green on that. But I'm not giving up on it, it's certainly not getting cut off. But if this spike does abort, I'll have to wait for another spike, and that could be quite a long time. But as it's now got roots and a new growth, that new growth, when it matures, may produce another spike. I have to wait and see. The larger one currently in bloom, this is Cyclopses Mendenhall Hildos, and it is probably one of my all-time favourite blooms. Yeah, let's see if I can. Yes, you can see behind the bloom the next bud's already forming. That's what they normally look like. Anyway, this one's in a poor state root wise because it just literally has hardly got any at all. Recently repotted. Basically this new growth is not too bad, but I don't know whether I missed my chance to get new roots from this new growth. It's difficult to tell because it is almost mature now, so I'll just have to wait and see. Not a strong plant, virtually no roots on it, but I've put it in moss the same as I did the other one when I repotted it. The other one recovered well and produced a good root system very quickly, so this one hasn't been in its pot long, so we'll see what happens. It is just literally a wait and see, but it's got enough strength to keep that spike going, so it's not failing, not at the moment. This is 3 of the larger Phalaenopsis, and most of my Phalaenopsis are just no IDs, just store-bought. This one, however, isn't. This is Sweet Memory. This has got a name. This had 3 flowers on this spike. This is the last one remaining, and it's showing serious signs of fading, so I think it's going to fall soon. But some say that the spikes extend, and it does have what looks like the possibility, so I'm certainly not going to cut the spike off. Not bad root system on that one, currently pushing a new leaf out. This one hasn't bloomed for a while. It's got good roots. It's only got 3 leaves though. You know, it's got a good root system down in the pot, but it hasn't shown much signs of life for a while. But then it did have one hell of an enormous spike on it when I got it, and that was like the middle of last year. Spike lasted ages, and since the spike was taken off it's done little apart from produce some roots. Now this is the monster that's been in flower for some time. It's the almost white with the delicate pink on it. The spike was out for ages. This has got you'd have a job to get a better root system than the Phalaenopsis. I think it's eaten all the media. I think that needs to go in a bigger pot. But it's certainly dying for water at the moment. I left the spike on in case it branches, but I've just noticed it is actually going to produce a new spike. So I may well just take the other one off and just give it a chance to grow a new one and get its new leaf going as well. Just give it a little bit of a rest from what was a large draining spike. So that's those 3. So as the day draws to a close and the sun sets, so does part 6. I haven't got a clue how many more parts are left, because this may sound daft, but I'm recording the end of part 6 before I put part 6 together. So I don't know how many clips I'm going to use up yet. Anyway, we're getting there, you know, gradually getting through the clips, and I'm making notes of every clip I've used so that hopefully we don't get any of them twice. It's taken up enough time and space just including them once. Anyway, hope you're enjoying them. I'll keep going till they're all finished, and see you in part 7. Bye for now.